Hello everyone. Session is going to start at sharp 9 p.m. Okay, stay tuned. Hello, am I audible? Can someone quickly confirm? Okay, so let's wait for 5 more minutes. Then we'll start. Thank you. Okay, so let's start, everyone. First of all, very good evening to all of you. I know it's a Friday night and everyone must have some really good plans, but thanks for coming and you know attending this session. I'm sure you are going to really learn a quite a good lesson through this session. So before going ahead, let me introduce myself. I am Dipesh Shinde. I work at the Just Compile. I basically do the training as well as the development. I'm a tech lead in the Just Compile. So with regards to the today's topic, so today we are going to learn about how we can create an CRUD application with the help of Angular reactive form. So before going ahead, okay, I would like to just give a small idea about what is CRUD to all those beginners who are going to, newly join to this world and trying to learn about the applications, about the Angular and everything. Okay, so first of all, let me ask you one question. What is the most important things in the current world? If I'm going to answer the question, it's quite simple. I'll say it is not the gold, it is not going to be the diamond, it is not going to be the money as well. Currently, the most important thing in the world is a data. You might have a question that no, data is the most, maybe we can say that data is an important thing, but not more important than the money and anything else. But no, you can get more money, more gold and everything through the data. Why? Because in the real time world everything goes around the data only. Wherever you go into the technology or the uh, internet, you can just see all the data just going and running around everywhere, right? For example, if I'm going to tell you about the Facebook, okay, what Facebook does, Facebook actually contains all the information of the user. Then we basically share our daily post, reels, everything to the Facebook. Then Facebook, what it basically do, it takes the data, it show the data to the other users, right? So all this thing is happening through the data only, correct? Same like, even more in brief, if I want to tell you, that is, in any web application, if you are going to create a simple web application, why you are going to do that? In simple word, just to maintain our data, right? Why it is needed? Simply, in the previous time, like before the technology comes into the picture, people were storing the same data but in a different way. How? They were storing the data to the files, to the their shells, their folders, into some room, offices, so on. Correct. But after some time, people are getting evaluated, right? Then the technology comes into the market and the picture. People started using the technology. Then all this hard-coded stuff in the format of data which we are storing. Now that all the data comes into the our technologies, right? So simply, now all the data is going to maintain into the internet, right? We don't need a specific, I'll say, a storage area. Obviously internet as well to store the data in some places, in hardware, right, in machines. But now we don't need the papers, we don't need the files, folders, all these things, right? So okay, we understood that data is a quite important thing, right? We basically create the applications, web application, windows application, and some kind of application just to work with the data, right? So obviously, if we are going to work with the data, then we need to do some operation with the data, right? So those operations are nothing but the CRUD operation, right? We need to insert the data, we need to update the data, we need to delete the data, we need to some do other operation with the data like fetch the data with some filters, all these things. So those things we do in the real time web applications with the data. Am I right? Correct? Obviously, that is the main purpose of creating any web applications, right? So now, how the Angular comes into the picture to manage the data? That is again a big question. If we are saying the web applications are managing the actual data, right? Then how the Angular works here to manage our data? It's quite simple. Angular is just a JavaScript framework, okay, which help you to work on your client side. What is client side? The site which currently an end user works. Like the way I'm currently, speaking with you. You are watching my online streaming in some browser, in some mobile applications, right? So these are nothing but the client applications. So similarly, whenever you have to, develop any client side applications, we need some client side framework or library and language. So here we basically use the JavaScript language, but like above the JavaScript language, we are using one framework that is an Angular. So Angular basically helps us to create some dynamic and attractive UI so that user can easily work with it and do their operations, right? Sorry. So this is how basically the Angular comes into the picture. It just helps us to create the client side applications. So obviously, I think many of you already know the difference between the client side and the server side part, right? Client side, as I tell, as the end user basically working on it, right? But the server side is nothing but it is just it is the same application, but it's placed in some common place, a stable place. Now, what basically we do as a client side application, we basically request to the server side applications, right? So I'm not going to go more deep into the client side server, all this kind of a discussion, but just to give you a simple idea, we have basically in currently we have two types of application. One is a client side application and other is a server side applications. Okay, earlier people were used to do the development with the server side only, but now as the technology is moving forward and doing all this new improvement, so it's just coming to the market, right? So now people are basically creating the client side application and server side application separately, right? So what they basically do, the server side application just, I can say, the major work of the server side application is to do the operation with the databases. The database where you actually store your data. Remember, I told you earlier that we store the data in the previous time in the files and folders, right? But now, as the technology evolves, we are storing the data into the databases in the cloud or some hardware system. Okay, so as we have stored the data somewhere, obviously we need to manipulate or work with the data, right? So those direct operation of manipulating the data is basically doing by the server side applications. And in real time world, many of you might have an idea about the REST APIs and all these things, right? Services. So those services and REST API helps us to basically work with these server side applications. Okay, so we create the APIs, we basically expose the data through the APIs, and now the client side application, which is a complete separate application, is going to use those API. So the work of the API is just to basically communicate with your server, and through the API, our client side application is going to communicate with the server. Okay, so that is the simple thing about the client and the server application. So now let's just go and focus completely on the client side application, because the Angular which we are currently using is going to work with the client side part, right? So simply, as I told you, that Angular is a framework which basically helps you to develop the client side applications, right? So now, obviously, I told you that we have the APIs, right, which do the communication. But as a user, I need something to say, see, right? For example, if I go here, okay, this is my browser, right? If I want to search something in the Google, right, what I need to do, I need to come here and to type something and then click enter. But think, if the UI isn't here, right? If we are not going to basically see the UI and not going to interact with the UI, and directly we want to get the data through some other application like Postman or something like that. So how it feels? We don't feel quite attractive. We don't feel the quite satisfying. Okay, so that's how it looks. Okay, that is the data. It's not that much improvisation, I can say. So the UI basically comes into the picture to make this work easy. It just represent the data in more and more better way. Right? You can see currently this Google, I can say a Google landing page where you have the Google logo, then search bar, then some icons. It looks quite well, like it looks quite better, right? It's properly arranged in a format. We can just hover over it. We can click it. So all these fancy and I'll say the attractive part is done by the client side application only. So this thing we can able to do with the Angular application. And now the same thing, as I told you, we have to manipulate the data. So to manipulate the data, we need to basically create some kind of a UI which will help you to store the data into the system, get the data from the database, then show the data into the actual application in a different way. So all the complete CRUD, like create, update, read, delete, all this part is going to done through the client application, and that we are going to do with the Angular. Okay, so I know that there's quite a theory. I'm just explaining you, so I'm not going to go more deep into the theory part. So let's just jump into the real practical world. Okay, so obviously to work with the Angular, we need the Angular framework, right? So I have already Angular framework installed in my system. Okay, so through that Angular framework, I have created a new Angular project. Let me just go. Yeah, you can see this is the app which I have created. Okay, let me just open it into some editor, CMD, COD. This is a shortcut to open the Visual Studio Code, VS Code. Okay, so it is opening. So yeah, so see, this is just a VS Code, which is an editor where you can edit the files. So this is my actual Angular application. Okay, so in this application, I have done nothing, zero changes till now. Okay, it is a complete fresh application. I just currently created, and you can see I have ran it here. I just, if I go here in this browser, and if you can see here, this is the complete fresh Angular UI which Angular 17 provides us. Okay, so this Angular application I have created with the Angular 17. You can see in the package.json, see Angular core 17. Okay, so simply what you need to do, just install the Angular CLI, and through the Angular CLI you can able to create the Angular project. Okay, so now let's just go to the app component directly. So app component is nothing but a root component for application. Now if you can see inside the app component, you can find out a lot of HTML and lot of CSS, all these things. So this thing is already present in our app.component.html. So if you can see here, whatever you can find out in this UI, in this browser, like in the client side application, all this UI part is currently present into our app.component.html. So what I'm going to do now, first of all, I'm going to remove all these things, and let's just add a simple h1 tag hello. Okay, let's just save the application. And if I go here, you see whatever the earlier I can say design was present here just get vanished, and now the complete new design which I've added, that is a simple h1 tag, is basically present here. Okay, so what I did, nothing, I just removed the existing code and I added my custom code. Okay, so simply in the Angular application, whenever you install the Angular application, you can find all the folder structure like this. So what you need to do, you just need to come to this app component, which is the root component, like I can say, which is the first component which gets loaded, and whatever HTML and things you can add here is going to display into the our browser. Okay, so there are a lot of more things which we can learn about the Angular, but in today's session the more main target of our is to understand the Angular CRUD application with the reactive forms. So let's just focus on that majorly. Okay, but other things sure we are going to discuss in the upcoming sessions one by one, so don't worry. So this is my simple hello world, right? So obviously, as I told you, that we need some screen, right? Some HTML, some interactive pages which can help us to save and store the data into the some location like the database or anywhere. Correct. So what we are going to do, we are going to first create a simple HTML page, which is nothing but an hard-coded HTML. We are going to do nothing in the first part. Later we are going to modify it, because obviously HTML is one of the important thing, right? If you have to create any application. So first, let me just come here and create an HTML page. Okay, like not HTML page, but the right proper form HTML. So for that, what I need to do, I need to obviously create some div. Okay, here I'm going to create a class. I need to add a class, container class. But you know what? If I'm going to create the complete HTML, one by one, it is going to take time, and we don't have much time, right? We have only 1 hour of session where we have to cover a lot of main core part. So for that, what I have did, I have just copied all the CSS which is required. I just copied it here. I'm just going to copy all the CSS. I'm going to paste here in my app.component.css file. So I've stored all the CSS, right? So I'm going to write some core and the top level component, or I'll say top level divs in the first part. Then automatically I'm going to copy paste the remaining one. So simply what I need to do is, I have created the one div, I've added the class into it. I need one more div. So let me just add the div, div div. Okay, so here I need one more class. So I'm going to add a title class, tla, right? What I'm going to do, why I added this, because I want to show a title. So what title we are going to do? Angular CRUD Application. Okay, I miss L here. Perfect. So let me just save this part and go to the browser and let's see. Okay, you see, currently the complete page was blank and only the h1 tag was present in this left hand side, right? But what I did, I just added a simple div, and inside the, you can see this is quite look a different, right? If I zoom over it, just give a shadow, right? It's a shadow which I have added to this container. Okay, and inside the container, I have added a simple what I'll say heading. Okay, so I have added heading here. So let's just add the further form part. Okay, let me see the styles. You can see all the styles I have added here. Okay, so this is the class name which I needed here. That's why it doesn't look good. Yeah, it looks much better now. I was wondering why it looks like that, but you see, I missed the class name. It's quite hard, right, to remember everything. So, but yeah, we have the title ready. Now what we need to do? We need a form, right? Because we are going to work with a form. Why? Because form is going to help us to fetch the data, update the data, delete the data, all these things, right? So that's why first I need a form. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a form tag here. Okay. simply I added a form tag. Okay, so inside the form tag, what I need some row, correct? So I have again copy pasted that row here. Where is my, because again I don't want to waste the time, right? Let me go here, copy this, come here, paste it here, save this. Let's come here. Perfect. See, I have added two controls here, that is the email and age. If you can come here and see my code, it is nothing. It's just a quiet divs. See, I have only uh, one parent div that contains the form row class and then two child divs. And through the divs or through these controls, I have basically created this simple UI which have the two controls. One is email address, second is age. But I need two more controls, that is the first name and last name. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this complete form, or I'll say complete div, okay, and I'm going to paste it here again. Why? Because that is the purpose, or I'll say usage of the classes, right? We just have to create a class once and apply it to the multiple divs. So that's why I have created all these classes in predefined, right, in my app.component.css. So what I did, I just did, I copied the complete row and pasted here again. So automatically, see, the same control is basically repeated. But I need to go and do the manual changes. Some of them, like I need to change this text. I have to make it the first name, and for this I have to do the last name. Okay, first name and last name. Perfect. So we have four controls ready now. There is the first name, last name, email address, and age. So this, I can say these are the okay for now, right? We are not going to add the many controls because we have a time limit and we need to understand the main core concept, that is the reactive forms. Correct. So through the reactive forms, we need to basically manage this thing. Oh, you can see here I have done some mistake. Basically, last name is a number type, which is not right, correct? So I have to come here and change this. There's a text. Perfect. So now as soon as I made the changes, perfect. It is working. Great. So we have the controls ready. What now we need is a button, right? Because obviously if I have a controls which is going to basically get some data, right? So I need some, button or some links to, make the operation works as well. Like I have to save the data, then I need a save button, I need to update the data, and I need a update button, correct? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add one button here. So for that, I have the HTML. What I'm going to do, just copy this part and paste it here. Again, I'm just copying this HTML so that I don't have to waste my time to write all this code, right? It is just a simple HTML code which you can, I can say, find anywhere, or you can write it by your own as well, right? So I have added the button. See, add and update button, right? We have two buttons here. Why? Because while doing the CRUD application, we are going to perform the create, which is going to save the data, we are going to read, which is going to display the data, then update operation, and then delete operation. So to do the update operation, we are going to require this update button. But for now, what we'll do, we are just going to commenting it out, because we are going to do the update operation, but after the save, right? So let's just save complete first. Then we are going to do the update operation. Okay. I hope till now you guys are clear what we did. Nothing. We just created a simple static HTML pages. Okay, simple static HTML page where we have this form inside it. So now to this static HTML page, we are going to do some dynamic operation. That is, we are going to fetch the data from the this form through the add button, and we are going to save it in some location. Okay, so obviously, let's consider before saving it, if we have some data which we have to display here before below the form, okay, in some table format, then what we need, we obviously going to need one table which is going to basically store our data, correct? So first, before making the actual dynamic change, let's just add one table as well, which is going to help us to show the saved, or I can say the stored data. So I have a div ready for that as well. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to come here, and below the form I'm going to paste the code. Perfect. Okay, that is not required for now. Let me just remove it. Okay, perfect. So let's just come here and see. Okay, I have a table, but that doesn't look like a table. Why? Because I have only one column and one header, right? Which is not right. So let's just do like this. Let's go and add few more columns here. So what we need to basically store, we are going to store this four field, right? So if we are going to store this field, then obviously we need the four columns to show these fields as well, right? The data which we are going to store through this field, we need a table with those columns to display it as well, correct? So that's what we are going to do. We are going to create a four columns with the four field names, like first name, then we need to add the last name, sorry, then email address, then age. Perfect. So I have added the four headers now. Let's just save and see how it looks first. Okay, you see, I have four headers: first name, last name, email, age, everything in it. Right. So now for that four header, obviously we need four TD as well, right? Four columns as well. So let me just copy these four columns again. So for the first name, we have the first name. For last name, we are going to add the last name here. Email address like Dipesh at the rate abc.com, right? And age, you can say 34, 48, whatever. Perfect. Oh, something is happened here. ABC. If you are okay, something I messed up. Let's just go and see. It doesn't look like the proper data to them. So let's just see Gmail. Okay, maybe at that it is making the problem here. So let's just only show the dipesh.com for now. Perfect. See, Dipesh Shinde, dipesh.com, and then 45. So it is the email because currently it's hard coded email, so it giving us some trouble. But anyways, you know what? We can do like that as well. Oh, my mistake. So this is how we can add the email address. You might have an idea about this uh, syntax, right? It is just we use to showcase the dynamic data, which obviously we are going to do further time as well. So don't worry, till now we did nothing. We just created a simple HTML form where we added a static HTML, right? A form and a table. Now what we are going to do, we are going to basically add all the data which is present here in these fields, okay, inside this table. That we are going to store the data inside the table, we are going to modify the data of the table, and we are going to delete the existing data. So all the complete CRUD application we are going to do through this Angular session. Okay, and for that what we are going to use, we are going to use the reactive forms. Okay, so let's just go and start coding. So perfect, let me just close this. Now we have to jump to our app.component.ts. Okay, as we are going to use the reactive forms, right? So I need to add the reactive forms module here. Perfect. So you can see, because we are going to use the reactive forms here, so it is quite important to add the reactive forms model into the import section. Otherwise, we are not able to access the classes and whatever the entities provided by this module. Okay, so simply first what we need to do, everything here is static. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to make this table a dynamic table. Currently I have added all the static data into my HTML, right? This everything is hard coded, right? But I want this data to be dynamic through my component.ts file. I am going to create some data or some array, I can say, into the component.ts file, and I'm going to show it here. So let's just go and do it. Simply, as I need basically an array, right? So I need to go and create a customers array, because maybe we can say we are showing the customers data here, right? And here we are going to need a type. Why? Because it's quite I can say important always to give the type to the variables and the function parameters, right? So for that, let me just go here and create type for this customers array. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a customer dot model dot ts. So here I'm going to export interface I customer. Okay. So I just created an interface which is I am going to use as a type in my for my customers array. So here what I need to basically show a four type of a data here, that is the first name, last name, email and age, right? Four properties I am going to need inside my customer interface. So I'm going to add here four properties. The first is f name, which is going to be of type string, l name, okay, l name, which is again going to be of type string, then age, which is going to be of type number, and then email, which is again going to be of type string only, right? Perfect. We have basically four properties added inside my interface. Now I'm going to use that interface as a type to my customers array. So let's just add here I customer. Okay, my mistake. I customer. Perfect. See, I need the array. That's why I need to add array here. So simply I initialize it with an empty array. Okay. What I did, I want to show this table dynamically. Currently, it is a static table. That's why it is obviously we have to create a dynamic application, right? So for that, we need to load this data through dynamically, correct? So what I'm going to do here to load the data dynamically, I have added an array here, and inside that array let me just add some, you know, basic data. So for age, as we have currently 45, for f name I'm going to add Dipesh again, for l name Shinde, and for what is remaining, email, right? Email I'm going to add again Dipesh at the rate gmail.com. Perfect. Okay, it is giving us an error. Why? Because the age is of type number and I have assigned the string value here. So let me just change the value. Now see, my customer array is ready. Okay, so I have my array ready here. What I need to do, I just need to bind this dynamic data into my HTML file. So how I can do that? So simply to bind the dynamic data into the HTML file, what we need to do, we need to use one directive, okay, which is present inside the Angular, that is ng4 directive. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use here star ng4. Okay, so let me decide let item of customers. Okay, so I have basically added the ng4, which is going to basically loop over this div and repeat this div multiple times, like whatever the data or the amount of data present inside this customers, that number of time this loop is going to basically repeat. Okay, so c, let me just add the item dot, my mistake again, let me just remove this because we need to bind the dynamic data. So we have to use this syntax and I need to add the variable name, that is item dot first name. So I'm going to copy this and paste it to the other columns. Let me just replace this as well. Then here, okay, everywhere I just copied the first name. Let me just change it with the last name. What is that I have? Email, right? Perfect. I have email and then age. Perfect. So now I have basically binded my dynamic array to the HTML. Okay. Now let's just go and see. See, now the complete data is looking quite similar. Earlier we had it hard-coded data, right? But now this data is a dynamically binded to our HTML. See, I have basically added the array here, and inside the array I have added some default data, and those default data is basically loaded here. Correct? Perfect. So right now my table is binded dynamically. Now what the next step we need to do is simply whatever the data we are going to type here, that data dynamically we are going to store inside this table, or we are going to show inside the table. But where it is going to store, basically it is going to store inside the customer array, because this is nothing but a static data currently present inside my component. This is my single page application, so whatever the variable data I can keep, it is going to be available, throughout the session, until unless I am going to do the fi. So don't worry, it's just a like a in-memory variable I am going to store. I'm not going to use the real-time API as of now. Okay, in the next session we can add that as well. But now I'm going to basically do all the app operations with this static, or I'll say in-memory array variable. Okay, so we are going to store all the data into the memory. Okay, and then we are going to perform all the operations over this data. Okay, but instead of this you can store all the data directly to the database as well by calling the APIs, right? By execute, like by accessing the servers and all. But right now in this demo we are not going to do that. We are just going to show all the activities here inside this customer array. It is like a small database, in memory database, which we are going to have in our session. Okay, simple. Perfect. So I have an array. I have basically loaded all the dynamic data. Now the next step what I am going to do is simply I am going to create one form. Why? Because in reactive form, if we have to take and bind the data to this form, we require the actual form created by the reactive form modules. So I know it's quite hard to understand. So simply let's just first see how it is going to happen. Then you are able to understand automatically. For that, what I need to do, I need to create some customer form colon form group. So form group is basically a group where we are going to store all this controls data. Okay, don't worry. Let's just complete this activity. You're automatically going to understand how it is happening. Okay. So here, why it is giving me an error? It is telling me that your customer form is not initialized yet. So we have to initialize the customer form, right? So to initialize the customer form, what is going to need? We just need to access the customer form, and we need to initialize it with the form builder. Again, the form builder, which is part of the reactive forms module. So I need to first add the form builder here. So form. So this form builder is basically helping us to build a form in our Angular application. Okay. So what I'm going to need is form BUIC form builder, which is part of the Angular forms. And it is coming again. We are basically able to access it because we have added the reactive form modules. Okay. So simply I have added the form builder. Okay. So with this form builder, what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically create a form group. Why form group? See here, the type of my form is nothing but a form group. Obviously, if you know, we added type like this, right? So currently for my form, I have added a type of a form group, right? So what this form builder is going to do, it is going to basically return a form group to us. Okay, see the group. So this form builder is nothing but a service which we are using. Okay, and inside that service we have one function, that is a group function, which is which basically return us the form group. Okay, so simply to build a form with a reactive forms, what we need one property with a form group type, and we need to initialize this property through the form builder service. So simply I have added the form like I've used this form builder service, and of the form builder service I have accessed the group method, and this group method is basically returning me the form group. Okay, and that is why I am able to initialize my customer form group. Okay, so simply this form group is required a type, like what type of controls you are going to create. We need to give some unique name to the controls, right? So that's what we are going to add here. So I'm going to add the f name, right? We can add the value, default value as well here, like this. Okay, then L name, and here also we are going to add a default value. I think we have email, right? Perfect. And age, which might be a 45, right? Okay, I have not added comma here. Perfect. So I have defined my form group here. Okay, so my form group is ready now. What I need to do is that I just need to bind this form group in my HTML. Okay, so currently I have just declared the form group. I have initialized the form group. Now I need to bind the form group in my HTML. Okay, so how I'm going to do that? Let's just go here. To bind the form group into the HTML form, what we need to do, we just simply need to use the form group attribute. See, automatically I'm getting it in suggestion. So form group attribute is by default present. How I am able to basically access this? Because I have added the reactive form modules in my component. Because of this, I am able to access this form group attribute. Okay. Now what this form group attributes required? It requires a form group type of a variable, right? So we have already, that is a customer forms. So let's just add the customer forms here. Perfect. So now I have created the customer form with the help of reactive form builder, right? I have binded the customer form in my HTML forms, right? Now what I need to do, I need to register this control as well with the form. So how I can register the control? To register the control inside the form, what I need to use the form control name attribute. So this form control name attribute requires some value, and that value we are going to give the same value which we have basically defined here. So we have a first name, last name, then email and age. These three type of controls present here. So these three controls we are going to, like, obviously we have, this is nothing but a name, right? So we are going to access the form group control name through this respected properties. Okay, so this is the first name property, last name property, and email, right? So what I'm going to do, I am going to use this name and I'm going to register this control inside my customer form. So let's just do that. As soon as I added this value, form control name equals to f name. Why f name? Because it is part of my form group. And as soon as I added this to the form control attribute, now this input control is registered in my form group. Okay, that is one thing we did. So we have four more controls. So what we need to do, we have to copy this. Okay, let's go here, paste it. We have to change, that is first name, then L name, then here we have email address, right? And then last one is age. Perfect. So the major thing is done. We basically created the form group, we registered the form group, and now we register the controls as well. Now this complete form is connected to my this form customer form property, right? Now what I can able to do is that I can directly able to access the control through this form group property. That is the major benefit of using the reactive forms. Okay, we can just directly able to access a complete form, or whatever the controls we have added inside the form through this customer form, or I can say a form group. Okay, so what we need to do, we are going to simply now get all the data which is, you know, going to be I'll say modify in my controls inside one method. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one submit method. Oh, sorry, something. Okay, SUB submit. So this is the method. What I'm going to do, as soon as I'm going to click on this add button, what I want, whatever the data I'm going to type inside this control, I want to basically showcase in my developer tool, like here in the consoles. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to first bind this submit method to my form. So how I can do that? I have already added the button type as the submit, right? So that's why I'm going to add the ng submit here. Okay, and here inside the ng submit, I'm going to call this submit method. Perfect. So now first let's just go and add the alert here. So if this alert is executed, it means my submit method is get called, right? So let me call perfect. See, as soon as I click onto the ad, I can see the alert box. So my add or functionality is working. Even if I click here, like press the enter, see if I have the cursor here and I'm just pressing the enter button, then only my form is submitting, and as soon as my form submits, my submit method is getting called. Perfect, that's done. But what is my requirement? My requirement is that as soon as I click onto the add button, I want to basically fetch all the data from the form and showcase here, right? So you can say, okay, you have the four controls, you mean you have to write it four times here? No, that's not required. What we need to do, it's simply we have to use the console.log, and inside that we have to just use the customer form dot value. Perfect. This customer form dot value is going to basically take all the values which this control is carrying. So currently, let me just refresh it. Okay, the control is carrying nothing. Okay, why this 45? Because I have added the default value. Okay, we can add any default value here. Test. Okay, maybe you can say Dipesh 2, Shinde 2, address DOM. Perfect. So whatever the default value I have added here, see, automatically I am able to have it in my control as well. So now, as soon as I press the add, I have done nothing, zero changes. But see, my all the data like 45 DOM and then the page Shinde, so everything whatever we have currently into the same text boxes is getting displayed in my console.log. Okay, so for that, what I did, I just simply used the form dot value property. It is going to show, give all the form data to me directly. Now, if I go and make any changes, like I do the Dheeraj, okay, spelling is wrong. Dheeraj Pujari. Okay, so I basically made some changes in my form. Okay, now, obviously, we need to handle some event to make or store the data, right? Or we have to use the ng model to basically do the binding. But here in the reactive forms, it is not required. As soon as you make the changes in the control and you have registered this control with the form, automatically the form gets updated. So now if I click the add button, see Dheeraj and Pujari. So my data is basically updated, right? So I can change this as well, like Thane, perfect, see Thane. So whatever I make the changes, I am always going to get the latest data. Okay, so why this is happening? This is happening because we have used this. Perfect. So I have received the data. Now what we need to do, we need to store this data into and show it in here in my table, right? So for that, what I'm going to do, I have the array, correct? I just need to push the data inside the array, right? So let's just do it. This dot customers, my mistake, customers dot push. I can just copy this part, right, as it is, because what it is doing, it is just returning us an object, right? See, the data which we are getting, it is nothing but in an object format, right? So if I have an object and I have an array of an object, I can directly store the data into the array, right? So that's what I'm doing. Let's just save, and after that, here I can say data saved. Perfect. So let's just add. Okay. See, data gets added. If I do the modification like Dheeraj Pujari age 95, which is not right. Then Thane. Okay, so let's just save it. Okay, data saved. See, the entry got added. Basically gets added, right? So perfect. So my, I can say the create part is done. I can able to basically get the data and store it into the array. Right? I can able to get the data from the form and able to store it into the array. So it means we have created some document inside the array. Perfect. My create part is done. Now what we need? We need to basically delete and update the data. Right? We are reading the data. We are creating the data. Now we need to update and deleting the data. Right? So for that, obviously, what we are going to do is we first going to add one column here into the table. So let me just go here and add column, two columns. Okay, one is for let's just remove here, remove this anchor tag and just add the action, or we can have this. Just add the actions directly. Maybe we don't need this. Just add one more column here. Here what I'm going to add, I'm going to add two buttons. One button is for update, editing the data. Another button is for deleting the data. Perfect, like edit and delete. Okay, so obviously we have added two buttons here, right? You can see if I haven't saved it. Let me just save and come here. See, we have basically we have added the two buttons here. Okay, so one is for edit, another is for the delete. So what we are going to do, as soon as I click onto the edit, I am going to edit this complete row and I am going to basically show all the edited information in my form. Let's just first remove the default values. It doesn't look good. So let me just come here and remove these default values. Perfect. So now my form is clean. So now if I want to update this specific row, what I'm going to do, I'm going to click onto the edit button. All the data I'm going to again reload into my form control, and I'm going to modify the form control and update the data. Okay, so obviously to first handle this click event, we need the event handler, right? So that's what we are going to do first. So I'm going to add one click event handler, edit, okay, and then again one more click event handler for delete. Perfect. But we are going to need one more important thing here. You know what? Obviously, if we need to modify data, okay, we need to find it through some unique identification, right? Currently, we don't have any unique identifier in our data. So how we are going to do that? We are going to do the unique identification with the help of indexes. So let me just add the index here. Perfect. I have added the index in my ng4, and that index value I am going to pass to my delete and my edit method, through because whenever I click to this first row, okay, I just want to delete this single row. I don't want to delete the complete collection. I want to delete a simple single row. Correct. So if I want to delete it, then I need some unique data, right, through this specific row. I can have multiple same type of data in multiple rows. To get the unique data, I'm just doing it through the indexes right now. But in real time applications, you can have the UIDs, any primary keys, anything as you like. Okay, so this is my index value. One more thing I am going to pass to my edit function, that is this item. Why? Because I want to load my existing items into my form, right? Then only I am going to modify it. So that's why I have basically created the two event handlers, but I have to create the respected methods here. So let me just edit customer index. Perfect. And then delete. For delete, we just need one index only. Okay, Here they need the type, so we know what type of data we have. I, customer, and index is nothing but an of type number, right? Perfect. Here also let's just add a type, that is number. So first, let's just do the edit operation. Okay. So to do the edit operation, as I said, as soon as I click onto the edit, what I need to do, I need to fetch the data from this collection and I need to store it here, right? In, or I can say I just need to load inside my reactive form. Why I need to load into my reactive form? So that I can able to modify it as well. Correct. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to update, or let's say I have the reactive form, right? This dot customer form. This is my customer form. So dot. So to do the edit operation, we simply just need a set value method. That's it. This set value is going to set the value for us. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass the customer object to this set value method. Now let's just go here and click on to the edit. See, let me just refresh it again. As soon as I click on to the edit, all the data whichever present in this single row is basically loaded into this form control. Perfect. Now if I go and make any changes, it's supposed to update the data, right? But no, it is the adding, like it is just adding the new value into the data. But we don't want that. What we want to modify the existing data, right? So let's just do the log, and I can say write a code for that. So simply, I have this edit method, right? So inside the edit method, what I need to store this specific edited index in the global level. So what I'm going to do, customer edit, or just change the name to the current index. Why current index? Because currently we are doing both the operation in a single page, right? Like we have the list and the form in the same page, but sometimes what you are going to do is that you have a list in one page and then this add form in the another page. At that time, through the query parameter, query string, you can able to get this respected unique ID. Okay, but currently we have it in the same place. That's why we are adding this current index property globally. Okay, let me just declare the property, add the index, assign the index. Okay, the type might be the different. Perfect. You need to change the type and make it number. Okay, they are saying you have not initialized it. That is the by default TypeScript error. It is not a Angular error. Okay, so great. We have the index value. Now what we need to do? We need to add one more variable which will inform us is it a editable mode or normal mode. So I am going to add one more variable here, that is edit mode. Okay, so it is boolean variable which is going to be true or false. So earlier it is going to be false obviously, but as soon as we are going to click on to the edit, we are going to make it true. So is edit mode equals to true. Perfect. My edit functionality is done. Like not completely done, but the work of this edit method is done. Now what we need to do, obviously when I click onto the edit, I need to change the button as well, right? Currently it is the add button, but what I want a update button. So what for that, what I need to do, remember we had two buttons earlier, the one which I already commented. Now we have the both button, but which button I have to show at what time? This update button I have to show when the form is in editable mode, right? And add button I have to show when the form is in normal add mode. Correct. So that's why what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a condition here, that with the help of star ngf directive. Okay, so I'm going to basically use this is edit mode, which we have already defined. Remember, just we have defined this. So I'm going to use this in both the places. So if the edit mode is true, just show the update button, and if it is not true, show the add button. Perfect. Now see, there is no editable mode. If I click onto the edit, the editable mode is just added. Perfect. Great. So now still the feature has not completed. Why? Because if I come click onto the update button, see again my data is saved. It's not modified. But what we need to do? We have to modify the data, right? So we need to again do and add some logic. So every time whenever we click onto the submit or update, what is happening? This submit function is basically executing, right? So into this submit method, what we are doing, we are just pushing the data, but we don't need to push the data. Now we need to modify the data. So for that, what we are going to do, first we are going to add the condition here, that if it is editable mode, sorry, if it is not editable mode, then the push the data inside the array. Else if it is the editable mode, then what do, then just update the customer array. Where is the customer array? This. How? We have the index. Remember, we stored the index globally. So I am going to update the data of the respected index. And what data we are going to basically store? Updated form value. Correct? Perfect. So I just modified the respected index value in this else condition. Done. Obviously, once the edit done, we need to modify this is editable false. Sorry, is edit mode equals to false, because now our edit operation is done, and this alert which we have added here, that we need to add now here. But data updated, text will be changed. Data updated. Let's just go and let's see the output. So I have clicked onto the edit button. Let me just make the changes like Dipesh or NAD, some different name. Let me just click onto the update button. Data updated, the message has changed. See, the data also changed. Perfect. So now we were able to modify the existing data. Simply we click onto the edit button, we loaded the data with the controls, right? And now what we did, we just updated the data. But a small, I can say, a problem is here, right? As soon as I updated data or I am adding a new data, right, my form is not getting cleared. Correct? See, every time a form data is basically just keeping as it is. But I need to, you know, clear the form as soon as I add the previous data, right? Or I updated any existing data. So how we can clear the form? Simply, there is again a method in the reactive forms which is part of the form group, that is dot reset. So what it will do, it will reset the previous value like this. So whatever the default value we have in our form group, that is going to basically set. Okay, sorry. So let's just edit. See the button text change, button change. Now Dheeraj Pujari. Let's just change it to Dheeraj and change the data. Okay. So let's update here. Data updated. See, the complete row has almost everything is changed. All the data which we have modified, right? Now I can add a new data like again Dipesh Shinde, Dipesh at the rate gmail.com, and age 45. Okay. Let's just add. See, now data saved, the message is saved one, and data added. Now I can edit this data, or I can edit this data. Whatever data I want, I can edit it, right? So this is a simple edit and update functionality. Okay, was quite simple, right? Yeah, because whenever we don't know something, it seems like hard thing. But as soon as once go through the things, it becomes really, really very easy. Now the last operation which is pending, that is the delete operation. It is quite simple. Okay, what we need to do is that we just need to remove the entry from the array with respect to the index which you have clicked, right? So what for that, what we are going to do? Customers dot splice. Splice is a method of an array which helps us to remove the element. So I'm going to use the index comma one element. So whatever the index I have chosen, so I just want to remove the respected index value. Perfect. So let's just add data like Dheeraj. You might have observed that all the data as soon as we saved, it is getting refreshed. Why? Because currently we stored all the data in the in-memory variables, right? But I'm telling you, it is not the only thing. You can actually keep the data in the database, or you can keep the data into the local storage, the browser storage which we have, right? If you can see, go here, come here, we have the session storage and browser storage, local storage, then IndexedDB, all these storages you can keep the data over here as well. Okay, we have a limited time, so that's why I was not able to finish all this thing. But don't worry, in the upcoming sessions we will do that as well. Okay, so now I have added this, but before that let's just add the confirmation box. Okay, because it is not good, right, to directly delete the data. So me add a confirmation box. Are you sure you want to delete data? If it says yes, then do it, else don't do it. Let's just add an alert box as well. Data deleted. Perfect. Now let's go add some data like Dheeraj Pujari, Dheeraj at the rate. Why? Again, Dipesh is typing, I'm not sure. Dheeraj at the rate gmail.com. 78. Let me add this. Saved. Add some data like Dipesh Rane Dipesh2 at the rate gmail.com. 45. Perfect. So I added few data. Now what I'm going to simply remove the data from my form. So let's just remove this data. So it is asking me, are you sure you want to delete the data? If I press cancel, it will not remove it. But if I press OK, see, data deleted and my data removed. Similarly, I can do for this also. Are you sure you want to delete the data? Yes, okay. Data deleted. Perfect. So great. So this is how you can remove the element from the array, or let's say remove the element from the data, update the element from the data, and add a new data inside your storage. Okay, so simply what we just did, if I want to recap over it, we just created a static HTML earlier, right, where we have the forms, we have the table, then we basically dynamically binded the list to our table, and we loaded all the dynamic data inside the list to the table. After that, what we did, with the help of reactive forms, we created a form. Okay, and then we basically binded this form to the method. Just a second. Okay, my charging was off, sorry. Okay, then what we did, we basically binded this form to the app.component.html, and all this control we have registered to the respected form using this form control name, right? So as soon as we register this control, now the complete form we were able to access through this customer form group only. Okay, we don't need to go and add any changes or do any manipulation in the HTML side. All the complete HTML or the complete form is going to access by the this customer form group only. Okay, so of as soon as we basically binded the form and the registered the control, we were able to access the form value. So on submit button, we just received the form value and stored it into the customer array. And if the mode is a edit mode, then what we are doing, we are just updating the data from the customer array. And as soon as we basically click onto the delete button, we are just removing the data from the customer array. And when we press onto the edit button, we are just taking the data from the form like this, and then we are setting the data. Sorry, my mistake. We are just taking the data from the table and we are passing the data to the form, right? So this is quite a simple. Okay, I understand in the real-time application you might or you are going to basically use the APIs, or you are going to store the data into the uh, browser storage in different way. I'm sure that too we are going to do soon in the upcoming sessions. But for now, for this session, that is all. We basically understood how we can, create, read, update, and delete through the reactive forms in the Angular application. So if anyone have any doubts, please feel free to ask. Okay, perfect. Okay, guys. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Uh, let's meet soon. Okay. Thank you.